we doing, guys?
All right.
Pretty good.
Good. Just Rick, you just want to start this off? Let's just get to it, huh?
Okay. I meant to ask Coach Augustus just now, I forgot, but is there any thought, given Bryson's skill set, which is kind of unique, about kind of developing a package specifically for him?
No, I don't think so, you know, and I probably am getting ahead of myself here, but, you know, kind of like I mentioned to you on the field, I think that was such a unique situation Saturday in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Your first two quarterbacks aren't even on the trip. Your third quarterback plays at the end of the first half. He gets a little shoulder separation, and now a freshman that we were redshirting has to go in the game for one play and then take a knee. Now both of those quarterbacks that didn't make the trip are back healthy. So I'm going to call the NCAA, write a waiver to the NCAA. I'm not sure of the process, but just to me, under just kind of common sense, I would rather redshirt him the rest of the year and not lose that year, because both those quarterbacks that were ahead of him are now back healthy, as is the third one. I mean, that was a very unique situation that he had to go in there. And for a young man to use a year of football because of that, to me, is something I think where common sense would prevail. You know, so we'll see what happens. You know, I'm not going to play him the rest of the year. I talked to him about that. You know, why try to squeeze out, whether it's special teams or, you know, trying to find a way to get him in the game, if in fact the desired outcome was to redshirt him from the beginning, and only because of an emergency situation did he have to go in that game. Because I felt awful. I felt bad about it. You know, as soon as the game was over, I knew as soon as he went in what just happened. And I had already thought through that process of, you know, it's just not fair to that kid to use up a year of football, because he had to go in a game because the fourth quarterback had to go in and finish the first half. So I know I'm getting ahead of myself. You're not supposed to really talk probably about, you know, what you're going to try to do. You shouldn't talk about that. But I just think that's in my heart. That's what my gut tells me the best way to go about this. So we'll see. You know, if they come back and say you can't do that because it was the fourth game or because he wasn't injured, I don't know. I think we need to relook at that rule if that happens, quite honestly. There was no intention to put him in there other than just get through the half. Henry, I'm sorry.
Coach, as a fan, that one felt good. As a player, what did it feel like? As the head coach in your solitude a few minutes after saying bye, what did it feel like?
Yeah, it was a great win because, you know, I think you have to go back to getting off that charter at that airport on Friday. And again, everybody knew it was hot. I mean, it was flat hot. I mean, it was 92 degrees, high humidity. So it was going to be, and I started talking about that from the moment we got there on Friday. I said, let's talk about what this is going to be. You know, I told the kids there's no national television to this game. There's no Goodyear blimp for us old guys that used to go around the top, up in the air when it was a big game. I said, there's probably going to be 15,000 people there. It's going to be hot. This is all about you, gut check, really, really wanting to win this game more than the guy you lined up across. I said, we have our third quarterback starting, all the above. We have an offense that's playing against, it's averaging 60 points a game the last two games, 60 points a game the last two games. Here it is. Let's not sugarcoat this and act like there's going to be some great atmosphere or you're going to go out there and just feel great. It's a great fall afternoon and the band's playing. That isn't it. This is a gut check. And I thought our guys responded unbelievably well with a lot of fight, a lot of character, a lot of heart, and a lot of conditioning. You know, I told them last week, you know, this isn't time now just because we're playing Tulsa with a high-tempo offense that we're going to go out there and condition. It's too late for that. This has to be just a drip, drip, drip effect of what you've done in the off-season program with Coach Satch from the beginning, and I have great confidence in that. So it was what it was. I mean, it was a gut check on a hot, sultry afternoon. Two teams that needed desperately to win a game. One team won 9 games last year, us. One team won 10 games last year, Tulsa. And, you know, we found a way to win it, you know, and that comes with actually having left some points on the field, as you know. You know, we left some points out there because of some turnovers and red zone problems. So it was a great win. It was a great win because I know what Tulsa is. People around this football world know what Tulsa is. So again, not to get too talking about last week, but it was big. It was big.
Is Lamar going to be 100% on Saturday?
Yeah. Yeah, Lamar's 100% and ready to go and excited to go. Probably could have gone Saturday. He was anxious to go, but I think obviously, waiting a week is what we needed to do.
Your area working this week on scout?
Absolutely. Yeah, Bryson Carroll is Air Force's quarterback for us this week. And as you know, I remember after the game last year, our players talking about as much as we practice, it was really hard to simulate how fast that was. That's the first thing, talking to our players in that locker room at the Cotton Bowl. And the whole emphasis has been try to practice as fast as what it's going to be in the game, which really isn't possible. But we do some under center, as they do some back in the shotgun pistol type formations. So, there's some carryover there, but I think for both defenses, if you look back a little bit as how this series has gone, it's really hard to duplicate just how fast either offense is going to execute.
Coach, defense was a point of concern coming into the season. What do you have to say about the defensive performance so far? They've kept you in almost every game. They've kept you.
Yeah, I think, I'm sure just like Troy Calhoun would tell you, it takes a while to know really what kind of team you have, where last year is somewhat irrelevant. Even if you have returning players at every position, last year is not necessarily what's going to happen this year. Particularly in our case and Air Force's case, there's a lot of new faces out there. And it takes time to see what you are. I stood here last week and said, well, Abilene Christian and New Mexico State, every time you numbers-wise kind of outnumbered them in the box, they were going to throw the ball. So they threw it each 60 times a game. I said, Tulsa's not going to do that. Tulsa doesn't care. They had 450 yards rushing each of the last 2 weeks. And I said we would know a lot more about our defense, particularly our run defense, after the Tulsa game. Well, we feel a lot better about it, quite honestly. I think we are making improvement on defense. I think we are building a defense for the future here. When you look at how many players are returning off this defense, there's a lot of young players out there, but there's a lot of talented players. Again, this is another test. This is a whole different animal this week. This is a whole different thing. Last year we couldn't stop this team in the Cotton Bowl. Hopefully we can improve. Last year we couldn't stop Boise, but at least this year up at Boise, we got our feet on the ground and made some stops. So I do feel better about our defense. I do think we're headed in the right direction. I do like the attitude of our coaches and players on defense. But this is another big test, man. This is Air Force, and this has been a wild series here in the 5 years since we've been here. It's been a very, very competitive game.
What went into the decision to have Luncheon snap for field goals?
Yeah, great point. You guys maybe, Rick noticed, L.C. Hampton, interesting story. He's actually from, I know the town, but I can't remember the exact name, but it's right outside of Tulsa. And a couple things. One, Jason Sanders came to me and felt like LC just had a little more zip on it. And interesting that when LC snaps it, the holder usually catches it with the laces out. He's done it that much that when the holder holds it, catches it, the laces are out. And it was really Jason Sanders' opinion that we should do that. But an interesting sidebar, there's L.C. Hampton in his first Division I game. He came here from junior college. Kind of comes from a family of long snappers. But he came to me on, I think it was Thursday, and told me that his great-grandmother, who was 94 years old, had died. He was broken up about it. He was broken up about it. And he was asking permission to stay at home and go home with his parents after the game because they were burying Grandma on Sunday. And it's amazing how it comes down to that last play of the game, and LC's the snapper, his whole family's there. And, Jason makes the field goal, and then LC got back last night. But you know, there's just so many dynamics that go on, not to get into that whole thing within a football team. But I was happy for LC. On the second field goal, he actually snapped it low, and Corey Borquez did a good job of getting the ball down and placed. So that's the story with LC.
I know you take it one game at a time, but how important is this game going into the bye week and getting above 500?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, getting back to 2-2. You know, I think, you know, all you guys, like everybody, like all of us, kind of look at that schedule before the season, right? And you're kind of projecting and saying, okay, they've got 2 games at home. Man, there's a good chance they can win those 2 games. Man, they go to Boise and they go to Tulsa the next 2 weeks. So a lot of people probably thought we would be 2-2 right now. Maybe not the same way it has shaken out, but if you look at our schedule, that's probably realistic, right? We were big underdogs at Boise. We were big underdogs at Tulsa, I would presume. We're 2-2. We've clawed back kind of an unconventional way to get to 2-2 now. You know, we've played a game and a half with our third quarterback. Both our 2 quarterbacks are back. This is a big game. Big game to get to 3-2. Big game with the open date to next week. But it's a big game for Air Force. I mean, Air Force is coming off at Michigan and San Diego State. They'll know a lot more about their team realistically after this week too. But yeah, it's big. It's big, and we've put ourselves back into a position where, you know, we're kind of headed in a positive direction again after stumbling a little bit early.
So our defense, their defense, kind of unusual. They're both playing so good right now, and our rushing, I think it's like 90-something yards is all we're giving up. They're a running team, so you're going to force them to run, and hopefully Workman's going to have to pass. Correct?
Yeah, it's a little bit different though, as you know, than Tulsa or New Mexico State or conventional offenses, in that numbers game against conventional offenses, you can talk them into doing something else. I mean, you can outnumber them a little bit. With the triple option, numbers don't matter. All they're going to do is go a different way. So it is a completely different animal as far as schematic. You know, it's totally different, totally different. You're not going to talk them out of running the ball. That's what they're going to do. And it's such a schematic offense like we are, it's easier said than done to stop it. They have answers for whatever you do, and they've been doing it a long time in the same system. And it's really impressive to watch. And yeah, we're going to try to make him throw it to beat us, but the only way we're going to do that is to be ahead in the game and being ahead on the down and distance. You know, if it's 3rd and 3, that's not happening. So somehow, how do you get them in 3rd and long, kind of like us? So it always comes back kind of to first down again. You know, how do you, they're going to run it no matter how many guys you have up there. It's can you keep them in or get them in 3rd down situations. It's the same game they're going to play against us. It's a high level of X and O's, this game. It's a high level of X and O's, subtle things that you don't notice. But it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge.
Coach, you say that you don't intend to play Colton anymore.
No, Bryson Carroll.
Right. I'm sorry. But what if lightning strikes? I mean, what if
Oh yeah.
So you would still consider
Best laid plans sometimes go out the window, and you know that's all a tentative scenario that I would approach to the NCAA and say, look, my intentions right now are to hold this young man out because we don't want to use this year. I can't guarantee. Obviously, if he goes back in a game, then everything's void. You know, that's, you know, it's just, again, knock on wood, it's very unusual to lose 2 quarterbacks that forced us into that situation. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
So then mostly injuries is when you can get this thing to work.
Yeah, it really, the letter of the law is, and someone else can clarify this if I'm not exactly right. We can come back and get you the interpretation of it. But the way I understand it is, if you're injured in the first 3 games and you don't come back and play because of the injury, then you save that year. So this is a unique situation. You know, I'm sure this has happened before. I don't know if the NCAA would want to start a precedence. I probably shouldn't even be talking about it right now. sometimes I get a little ahead of myself, but, I mean, speak from the heart and tell you what I think should happen. If it happens, great for the kid and great for the family. I think it's the fair thing to happen, but I'm not the one that has to set the precedent that, all of a sudden you change precedent.
Coach, if it's fair to say your wife has seen all your great wins in your career, this one, where did it stack up? This is a pretty exciting day.
It was, but I wouldn't quite go, we didn't fly off to Vegas after the game, put it that way. We came back to Albuquerque and went home and watched about 2 or 3 games on television. But yeah, I mean, it was a big win. It just makes the next game that much bigger, back to Bob's point. That's what it does in this. We were back in the office at 8 o'clock Sunday morning and up there till late at night Sunday night and move on to the next one.
Put a cherry on the top. What did she say?
Brian, you know what Joanne said? Yeah. She said, are you going to walk the dog now that you're home?
Throw the trash.
Yeah, I mean, we've been married 39 years now. I mean, but yeah, she said, get your butt off that couch and go walk that dog. Yeah, that's probably what. That put the cherry on it. Huh?
The bear hasn't been back yet.
No bear. No
A lot
bear.
of people were pleasantly surprised with Colton Gerhardt and the way he performed. I mean, poised, he ran the offense. You can see the leadership of him out there. Does his performance, and I know you've seen him in practice in spring and fall, but does his performance in a game and a half change kind of how you view the quarterback position if Lamar struggles at all?
Well, the first thing, Bob, is his performance is exactly like it's been. Even though he didn't know the offense and he hadn't played offense for 3 years while he was at Arizona State, or played quarterback in 3 years, his performance is just like it's been in practice. Very steady, not the flashiest, but yet you know exactly what you're going to get. I mean, it was amazing that exactly how he performs in practice, how he practiced in that game. Obviously, now you have confidence that he can go in there and move this football team and play within our offense. So how it's going to play out, who knows, right? None of us know. I couldn't tell you, well, Lamar's going to start, and then if this happens, we don't know. Lamar's the starter. It depends on how it goes. I just know now it's been confirmed that Colton Gerhardt can do in the game what he did in practice. But so has with Tavaka. I mean, let's not forget, Tavaka came in the second half against New Mexico State, and I think a lot of people said, wow, we hadn't had a guy like that around here. So again, it's going to kind of go how it goes. None of us are going to be able to control how it goes or what the dynamics come into it. We'll see. We'll see. That's why you ought to come out and get people to come to the stadium this week and watch this game, man. It's kind of intriguing, right, Rick? Pretty good stuff.
If he had to play this weekend, he would be good to go, Colton?
It's going to be really close. He didn't separate it. He maybe the technical thing is an AC joint sprain. It was on the long run before the first half, and he went down on the turf, and the ball kind of squirted out, but they ruled it the ground caused the fumble. He's a tough guy, and he's been spending a lot of time in that training room. It's pushing it right up to the game, and that's what our trainer told us yesterday. It'll be right up to the game to decide if he can go. But he is a tough guy. He's a tough guy.
Anything else?
All right, Henry, did we put that cherry on the top? We got the cherry
Gotta
on
have
the
it,
top.
Coach.
Yeah.